going to be the main speaker to delay until January. So we're good. So we have multiple people today who will be speaking about sales. Hi, I'm Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. You are in the monthly global sales conversation, and this is intended to be for people who are doing selling across regions and around the world, providing them the tips and techniques and ideas and thoughts and hopefully inspiration to be able to get to the next level, not just between now and the end of the year, which some of you that still matters, maybe most of you, and maybe more importantly, ultimately, how do we do better next year? How do we be more effective? How do we sell more? How do we be better leaders? We just came out of a meeting on leadership, and I thought, but yeah, Basile is here. So Basile was part of that, and he was providing some comments. And I'm sure, Basile, some of the things we talked about there are very applicable here, and that is evaluating how the year has been,
Hmm.
thinking about what has worked, what has not worked, what did we not do that we wanted to do. And while you were speaking, Basile, by the way, at the last meeting, one of the things was what you and I talked about. It was about a month ago about getting your methodology and technology around networking and connecting and into Global Chamber more directly. And I actually remember going to John O'Groat's breakfast place nearby me here in Los Angeles. They have the best biscuits in the world. It's John O'Groat's, as you is certainly got a lot of Irish activity there, and it's family owned. Great biscuits, fantastic. And I remember walking in the door, speaking with you, and telling myself, I got to get this done. And I haven't done a damn thing since then about it, other than to think about it, maybe put it on a list. And so, similarly, today for us, let's really think about selling in the same way. And we've got some amazing people on the sales side here. And one of them, and if you don't mind, I'd like to start with Dan Hinman, because he did a great job of starting the Global Chamber London meeting fantastically the other day. And Dan, would you be open to kicking off our conversation? You, as a great salesperson, you not only are great at selling, but you teach others. How should we be thinking about things as we come to the end of the year, and how are you thinking about being even better in 2026?
Wow, a lot of pressure there, but I'm happy to give it a start. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Hinman. Just quickly about myself, I work for a company called Sales Acceleration. I'm a fractional sales leader. I've got over 30 years experience working with large companies, small companies, medium-sized companies, leading and building sales teams. But what I do now, I'm actually located in London. What I do now is I focus my efforts with the small businesses, owners and founders who are kind of struggling to get momentum in their sales engines and seeing some issues, with their selling processes. So our company actually surveys, thousands of customers. We've been in business since 2011. We've got 220 fractional advisors across the world, mostly in America, but also in Canada, Australia, and the UK. And when we surveyed our customers, we've got thousands of customers we've worked with since that time. Um, 86% of those customers say they struggle with building a sales strategy for their business. They don't have a clear industry position. They don't understand clearly their competitive differentiators or their value propositions. 90% struggle with a sales methodology. They're struggling. How do I set up territories and territory coverage? And do we have a good selling process? Or do they use a CRM system? Sometimes we find companies just use CRM systems as a database, just dump accounts into, and they don't follow a good selling process. Um, 96% suffer with staffing and hiring and training and coaching and the roles that they have. Very few actually do formal training with their people. And then another 90% or more have struggled with the right metrics to track their sales teams. So, owners say to us often that revenue is flat or it's been the same for the past several years or sales are declining. They're not knowing really what to do differently. Or sometimes they say that they have most of their revenue is only coming from a handful of clients, and that's putting their business at risk. Or they can't predict their sales. Or sometimes they say, if I wasn't in the business as the owner, we wouldn't have any sales because they sometimes are the number one salesperson. And they can't find the right salespeople. So, what we often do is work with these smaller businesses to develop a strategy, to develop a good selling process that they can follow and hold everybody accountable for. And then, we developed roles, responsibilities, metrics, implementing CRM systems. A lot of these companies just haven't thought that far. I work with several small businesses who have been very, very successful for many years without a clear selling process. One of the accounts I'm recently working with now, 20 years or about $2 million in revenue. And the number one salesperson is the owner. And his strategy has been build a website and they will come. And guess what? It's worked, but it's not working anymore. And they're not getting as much revenue. And he's really nervous. And so, he needs to understand what a selling process is and how do I find a salesperson who can take over and really, grow the business. So I'll kind of stop there and ask if there's any questions or pause for the next presenter. But those are some of the things that we see on a regular basis.
If you don't mind, for all of you, I'd love to be able to hear, ideally from all of you, either with ideas or thoughts or things that resonate with you that you hear. One person, if you don't mind, I see Shupto in the call. Shupto, we didn't talk ahead of this meeting, but one of the more impressive people that I know in terms of his activity, in terms of his professionalism, in terms of his being there for his clients and prospects is Shupto. And having watched you at work, Shupto, you're a marvel. And you are a prospecting machine. You spend a lot of time on the road. How do you spend time actually implementing? It's amazing what you do. As you've reviewed or listened to Dan and what he said and thinking about your year in selling, because you're certainly engaged with it very heavily, what are some of the things that you're thinking about right now?
No, and thank you, Doug, and thank you, Dan, for the great insight. You are absolutely right. I'm not a salesperson, typical CFO, but when I started my business, but that's what we did when I ran a company, right? The sales is the key thing, and I went after all the CEO, sales head, like why the sales are not there. So you said it right, and it's Doug, as you said, like I'm on the road. And one thing I think what I do and differentiate in our market, see, we're not selling a product, we're selling a service. And there's a lot of variation coming into our service, right? In account, so we are at Matrix Minds is a full service accounting, advisory, and financial management firm. So it comes with the trust, a lot of like different advisors and stuff, like all the bankers, all those other people. So to win that trust, as you said, Doug, I mean, to me, my client. So I spend time with them as much as I can. It doesn't matter if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I did that in Valley, as you told me. Like there were times I came back to the hotel like 3 o'clock in the morning. I left 6 o'clock, and it's just one client. He had an issue that I'm trying to solve with him. So I think that gives me a little. It's a slower turnover, right? That's a challenge. And I think I actually met a couple of people. So I think that's what my strategy, but it's slow. So I have to think of a different strategy.
Okay, so you're open to new ideas for 2026.
Absolutely.
Okay. Dan, I know you are, I mean, you're an expert on many levels on the sales process. And actually, the company has operations in the US. And thank you so much for the referral from the fellow in New York. And it turns out he's,
Sure.
I think, living in White Plains, which is like
That's
within a stone's throw of where I was born.
sure.
So he and I are already speaking on Tuesday. What would you suggest in a case where, Shupto is a financial expert? He's the leader of his company. He's out there, operationalizing and helping and supporting his clients, and at the same time he's prospecting. So probably counting on people to refer him, as part of it. And how does someone like that, how should they consider reevaluating where things are for the new year?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't unfortunately know too much about the business yet to really to make some recommendations, but I think understanding your selling process, and making sure you have a good selling process, who your client profile, what your client profiles look like, right? Do you really clearly understand who are those ideal client profiles? Do you have a real good handle on your value proposition and your competitive differentiators? Right? And do you know what you're going to talk about when you meet with these clients, what you can really focus in on? Do you have kind of that script that's
Right.
going to make it, important? And then, one of the key things that I often see with salespeople, and I'm not saying this is the case with you, Shipto, but salespeople are often more concerned about showing the customer they know everything about their business and about
Right.
their product versus
Right.
really understanding that client and what
Right.
those challenges are. So I would say focusing on uncovering the pain points
Right.
that customer is having is really crucial. And if there's any way to be kind of an educator about their industry, letting them know what some of the trends are in the industry, be perceived differently rather than just a salesperson, but an
Right.
educator, a
Right.
trusted advisor. That
Right.
is certainly a recommendation I'd have for anybody.
Absolutely agree. I'll follow that.
Okay, and I'm happy to help. After this call, sometime we want to just have a
Sure.
conversation, talk
Sure.
through
I
further.
think I met one of the gentlemen. I don't know if you know Enrico, I think from your company. He's based out of LA. Enrico Paridoni.
Maybe. Okay, maybe I haven't met him, but
Gotcha.
yeah, there's about 200 of us in the U.S.
Yes. Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm happy to help any way I can.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well,
Sure.
thank you guys for getting the conversation started. I mean, this is a big topic and there's a lot to cover. I want to make sure that you're all introduced, if you haven't met him yet, to Zach Selch, who not only is a sales leader, but really a lot of what he ends up doing for companies is helping them with their sales distribution around the world, and his knowledge of them and development of those, selecting them and developing them is, there's nobody better than Zach. And Zach, that concept and that idea of people not listening, of and distributors and agents that you end up selecting and then ultimately training, that must be one of those frustrating things for you. If you end up, particularly if you've inherited someone who's not a listener, somebody who's not gifted in that area. I kind of like, if you don't have it, how do you even teach it, right? It may be impossible or very difficult to really transform someone, isn't it?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I actually had a guy who was a great sales guy, and he turned into a really, really good sales guy. He really became a fantastic performer, and now he's the CEO of a company. And but he wouldn't shut up. And that was a big problem. And I actually sent him to a coaching, like I made him certify as a coach, not because I wanted him to coach, but because coaches are like, I knew that he'd have to spend like 40 or 80 hours in this course listening. And it was just sort of like an exercise in making him shut up, right? And it worked really well. but that was something I did. I mean, we all, the best salespeople are really good listeners, but nobody ever goes into sales because they're a good listener, right? If you have non-commercial people in your family and you're a kid who talks a lot, they say, "Oh, you should go into sales." Salespeople talk all the time, right? And so all these people end up in sales because they talk a lot. And they might be really good at presenting things. They might have a lot of skills, but you have to teach them to shut up. And that's not an easy thing. Yeah, no, that's a good question. Shabtu, I'm going to throw out two ideas for you
Sure.
I'll be really frank, like everything Dan said is my life. I agree with pretty much everything he said, so I can't add a lot. But I'm going to add two things here. One is the faster you get out of selling, the better it's going to be for your company, right? You have to
Yes.
figure out a way to scale.
Right.
And like Dan said, or to sort of piggyback off of what Dan said, I would spend a day or maybe a weekend writing down, mapping out what your sales process is, right? Like who buys from you, why do they buy from you, how do they buy from you, and then how do you sell, right? And by that I mean, well, how do you find them? What's your first touch? What does the introduction look like? How do you set a meeting with them? What information do they need to buy, etc., right?
Right.
Map that all out and then figure out who can do it as well or better than you for cheaper,
Right.
right? And
Right.
then say, you know what, I really have to be in this part of the process. I
Right.
can't close it without being in this meeting, but I can hire somebody to do the research. I can hire somebody to do the intro. I can hire somebody to do this. I can hire somebody to do that, and hire people to do every part of it that you don't have to do. And that's how you scale.
Right.
And I'll go on something else Dan said. The best possible way to establish yourself quickly as a credible expert
Right.
is to ask a question that nobody else knows to ask them, right? And essentially, because you probably know your ideal customer profile, right? You've been working with people, you know the business. You probably could come up with three questions that their boss or their spouse wouldn't know to ask them. And when you ask a question like that, they're going to say, okay, this guy isn't just a sales guy. He understands my life. And
Right.
those are the two things I'd add on top of what Dan said, right?
Right.
Because that's how you really establish that credibility, right?
Yep.
Do,
Understood. Thank you.
do you have an example of what a good question is?
As a
It
matter
reminds
of
me.
fact, I do. So I came up with this idea a few years ago. I was selling this tool. It was a very, very specific tool for like there's probably no other product in the world that could be sold to so few people, right? It was a tool that was used to get additional doses of vaccine out of a vaccine. So if you had enough vaccine for 300 kids, we could get 500 doses out of that vaccine, right? So the only people who bought it were essentially the vaccination managers of countries that were having trouble getting enough vaccine, right? So literally, I was selling to about 50 people in the world.
Right.
Now, essentially, they all thought that they were the only people in the world with the problem they had. They thought that they were ordering vaccine and it wasn't getting delivered, but all the other vaccination managers in the world were probably getting everything they ordered delivered. So I'd go in and talk to them and I'd say, so last year's order, for polio vaccine, what percentage of that was actually delivered on time? And they would look at me and they'd go, about 40%. How did you know I didn't get it all? I'd
Right.
say, I know a lot of people in the industry, and I know that a lot of people like you are having trouble getting delivery of your vaccine. And it would completely blow their mind because they'd say, my boss doesn't believe me, my husband doesn't believe me, nobody believes me. And suddenly I was the guy who knew their life better than they did, right? And that was like, and since then I've been always, that's one thing I do for my clients is I always identify these type of questions because those are the questions that really establish credibility quickly and powerfully, right?
That,
That,
that's brilliant.
brilliant.
Thank you, Zach.
No problem. And I'll just, since I'm talking, I'll tell you what I basically do is very similar to what Dan does. I guide people, but my focus is on companies that are expanding globally. So I work as a fractional VP of international sales for companies, and I work as a mentor for typically the VP or the head of international sales. And that's I do a variety of different projects for different companies, but along that curve, either I guide them or I do it for them. But it all always typically has to do with global expansion.
You have broad market knowledge and experience in the medical area,
I've
medical
been
product
I did
here.
about half of my work. Most of my work through my career has been in the medical business,
Yeah.
but I have projects in ag tech, mining tech, construction tech. Um, all I've done some food and beverage stuff, some alcoholic beverage stuff, all different types of products. My background is in the medical technology business, so. I'm usually looking more for clients in the med tech, and then people find me from all over different industries. When they're having trouble, just like Dan said, they have trouble with methodology, right? But typically dealing with international sales, very often a company will have pretty good methodology for their domestic organization, but they won't have anything for their international organization. So I find them distributors, I hire, executives for them, I put in place training for them, I help them with their marketing materials and their sales enablement tools, pretty much everything that has to do with revenue.
Uh, Crum Peeve is in the call, and Crum, are you open to sharing more about uh, your business? And also, you are in sales distribution. You've been doing it for many years. Is there anything that you would like to add to this conversation?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I see here a very big professionalist. For me, it's very kind to be with people like you. Uh, so I have experience in trading more than 35 years. I start with trading when I was for 20 years old. I make my first company. Now I represented here company Vemu Corporation, which is uh, one of the big producers of food supplements, herbal extracts, feed additives, and enzymes. Vemu help producing in completely closet producing charcoal. So only few company in the world have this. We use Bulgarian wild herbs. We have the factory for extracts for extraction. So we extract the our herbs and going. We have our own laboratory and going to find our products, food supplements, especially for sport, bodybuilding. We also have health products. We have more than 30 products and export in 30 countries all over the world. So company developed very good in the last years, and we want to uh, develop our company and looking for distributors, especially for athletic distributors, fitness centers. Also very good for us is the sporting teams. For example, basketball, football, boxes, all kinds of Sports are very suitable for our products. Our leading products is Tribulus terrestris, which is uh, from Bulgarian herb Tribulus, which is a very high bioactivity, and we are leading exporter in Europe of this extract and these food supplements. It's very healthy supplements. Tribulus is one of the very healthy product which use only not only in food supplements but also in medicine. So I'm looking for distributors and for partners who want to have in good products, who want to sell active products because most of the products in the world are not bioactivity. The activity is very low. So we strict listen for our activity, and we are not so famous brand, but we make really very good food supplements from wild herbs.
Because
Thank
certainly
you.
a key part of sales is understanding the market, your product, and who it appeals to. That's a key aspect, right, Dan? In terms of
The
kind of want
best,
to say,
yeah.
right, what do I have in my hand? How can who should I go after? What does that all look like? And that's the first step. And I think Crum clearly, knows that. There are a few more steps to selling beyond that, but that's certainly an essential part. Dan, do you have any questions or thoughts based on what you've heard so far?
No, I would agree with you 100%. It's crucial, to really understand your target market, those ideal client profiles, what your competitive differentiators are. As I said earlier, I'm amazed at how many small businesses have been successful with really not understanding these or not really defining these. And if they do have a salesperson or two or three, the owner might have this in their head, but the rest of the salespeople don't. It's not as clear. So, and they're the ones on the front line. So, just really making sure that you know what those unique selling points are and your competitive positioning, and who are your targeted clients. Really narrowing down so you can tailor your messages to those prospects that are really going to resonate with them. Something that's valuable. You're not sounding just like another supplement salesperson. You know what I mean? It's really understanding that, and that's critical.
So, Bazil, this is something that you teach people when they're connecting and networking, which is really a sales process, right? Here we are, we get obsessed by, what shirt we're wearing and the shoes and our product and everything that's in our head. And really what we need to be focused in on is everything else. So how do we get outside ourselves so that we're actually doing what was talked about, is asking the right questions, understanding the situation when we've got all this information and we've got all these pitch decks and all this stuff that we're ready to go, our elevator pitch and all that. How do we make that shift to really getting to be able to ask the right questions?
I'll tell you what, also, sometimes I was dealing with a client just recently who, you know, I started talking to her. I said, look, the first thing we're going to do is build a plan. And she was like, Zach, I don't need a plan. I have a plan. I have a great plan. And she gave me like 70 pages of total crap, of stuff that was commercially worthless. And I think she had like gone to college or something and gotten some people to write some reports for her. And it was just like commercially worthless. And I went through it and I said, look, this isn't a plan. This is just a bunch of stuff that some people have pulled off. This isn't a plan. And so sometimes you have to be able to understand what is commercially viable and what the information is that you need to make a decision. And a lot of it just ties right up to what Dan says, like who's going to buy from you? How are they going to buy? Why are they going to buy? Right? Can you find the right markets? You know, one thing that I see with small companies all the time is I'll tell you, this is a real example. I've been I've been an employee of 11 startups and I've probably advised another 2 dozen. And I would say that every time, about more than half the times, the founder has created the product with the idea of selling it to the wrong person, right? So what happens is a guy comes up with a great idea, fantastic idea, and thinks, I'm going to sell, and the first time I noticed this guy had an idea of selling a ventilator that would go into an ambulance and would work on a 6-hour battery. But the thing is, ambulances have great electrical systems. They don't need a battery in the ventilator. So nobody wanted it. But on the other hand, there are lots and lots of hospitals in the world that don't have good electrical systems, right? So by shifting who we were selling to, we went from having a product that nobody wanted to a product that was really, really very valuable, right? And I see that a lot with founders in startups, you know. It's a very common thing.
Hmm. If you don't mind, Luis, you're in the room. Luis Villaclara, are you open to sharing a perspective? And I think others in the room have this information as well. But one of the aspects of selling that we somewhat touched on with Shupto is with Shupto, he's a professional and he's very knowledgeable about finance. And in the case of Luis, he's very knowledgeable about accounting and how to help companies be more successful on the finance side of things. And so often those people feel that selling, and I'm not saying this is you, Luis, but that selling is kind of the dirty work, that it's not.
Yes.
I'm a chemical engineer, and so engineers tend to look down on salespeople as well. In some cases for good reason. The bad selling is pretty unsightly, car salesmen sometimes and things like that. So, Luis, thank you for joining us today. Are you open to say a few words about
Of
how
course,
you
yes.
sell and anything we should be thinking about?
Yes, well, thank you. Very interesting, all the Dan, what you have said, and also Zach, all of you. Thank you very much. As you have said, Doug, I am selling professional services in the financial area for companies, and I have been owning my own company for several years, and I am the managing partner. And really, most of sales come directly from me. This is the reality, and a lot of sales come from direct contacts. And it is interesting, no? Because finally you have it for so much time doing this kind of process of approaching people that I am in a kind of moment that I have to think about new strategies, no? Because finally, it is a bit, as you said, Dave is somehow it's hard, no? To find new clients, new companies to approach, or even though to see what you are doing wrong, no? Because mainly of the sales of our company come directly from me, from my contacts, from my expertise, from even though a lot of clients come from actual clients, and sometimes you think what can you do more to increase this sales, no? And this is in part, I think this is, I am here also, I joined the Global Chamber also to get, to increase my contacts, no? I think that in our case, international contacts are very, very important. And our services require trust, and it's not so easy to get the trust of a client, no? If a client has to give you all his financial information, all the financial information coming from the company, this means that they have to trust you. So I really work a lot with other professionals, like lawyers, like international contacts, like all kind of different contacts that that accompany me, but accompany us. Sorry, but really, I am. I would like very much to. This is why I'm here to hear more alternative, to what I'm doing. This is why to get out from this circle I am in. No? Sometimes
As you're approaching 2026, are you going to go through a process of evaluating how things went and how you might shift in the new year on your selling process?
Yes, I must do that. No, really, this is necessary because in my side, I think, all of us have a day-to-day work that we have to do, no, the daily basis work, and sometimes the sale process. I am not, as you might understand, I am not a 100% salesman, devoted person. No? So one of the things that probably you have mentioned is that we have I have to make something more structured and something more organized to get to get my objectives. This is that, no? Because sometimes the daily work gets you involved in so many different things that time passes and it gets difficult if you don't have, as you said, Doug, clear objectives. You don't. It gets a long time to get these objectives. No, this is it. So I am not really exactly perfectly organized on that. So I have a lot to learn, to tell you the truth.
As someone who is perfectly organized is Donna Smiley. She's right next to you on my screen. Anyway, Donna, thank you for your leadership and thanks for jumping into the India call. I thought that was perfect for you, and you interjected some great comments. And I was really excited for you to be there to listen to the Crescendo Worldwide announcement. This is something we haven't leaked out, but Global Chambers developed a partnership with Crescendo Worldwide, and we're working worldwide with them. And that announcement will come out next week. And so today was a preview of that. You, Donna, are great at selling. I feel it. I feel your energy. I feel your inspiration. You're smart. You ask a lot of questions. You connect with people. How do you feel like you've done this year, and how are you going through a process to get ready for 2026 to be even better?
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Doug, for this platform, and good evening and good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are. Again, my name is Donna Smiley. I'm in the commercial real estate space. I've done commercial real estate for 10 years. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and moved to Atlanta about 18 years ago. And I did not have a network at all because I came from another city. And at the time, I wasn't in real estate at all. So I really have built my network from ground zero of being a networker, being intentional with the follow up, and building relationships in my market, of being somebody that's very educated and seasoned and know what's going on in the market as a real estate professional. So I actually just wrote down a few things that I do that I would love to share with you if you're kind of struggling with networking and kind of staying top of mind. I always try to find events that have nothing to do with real estate. So you can take that and use that for your benefit, whatever business you're in. Find events that have absolutely nothing to do with what you're doing. Somebody may have a need or they may think of you. So, for example, I go to a lot of residential events. I do not do residential real estate, never done residential real estate a day in my life. Why do I go to residential real estate events? Because I end up being the only commercial real estate broker in the room. So what do residential people say? They're like, "Oh, you do residential?" "No, I don't. I do commercial." "Oh my goodness, I have a client who I just sold a house who has a business that needs an office space or a retail space." And that turns into referrals. I get over 100 referrals a year from residential agents. And that's because I built a relationship with a lot of these agents to where now I don't have to go out and network as much. they are already out doing the work. And then when they think of commercial, they think of me. So going to events that have nothing to do with what your business is a great way to actually generate business. But not only just going to the event, as I mentioned, the follow up is very important. So for myself, I don't just follow up once. I'm following up all the time. If you're somebody I had a really great conversation with, I'm trying to get another meeting with you after the event. I'm trying to do coffee with you. I'm trying to get to know you on a one-on-one basis to see where is there synergy and how can I help you. I come from a place of service. How can I help you? And by default of me helping you, you're going to say, how can I help you? And it becomes a reciprocal relationship over time. So, being intentional about the follow up and not just wanting to sell someone on what you do is a great way for you to actually get people to want to send you business because they see that you're coming from a place of value. So, it's something that I'm very intentional about. I went to a holiday party yesterday. I'm very connected to India. I've traveled to India and I'm building a lot of relationships with India. Went to the holiday party for our Indo-American Chamber of Commerce last night, and I met a lot of great people. So today I have all their cards here, and I'm going to send them an email and tell them it was nice to meet them. And the people that I really had a really good synergy with, I'm going to schedule a time for us to have a conversation or go out for coffee and just really get to know each other on a deeper level about how I can help them. And by me doing that, I'm able to say, hey, I'm in Global Chamber. This is great for you. This is something that you should actually think about getting involved in. Or the Georgia Indo-American Chamber is great. If you're not a member yet, you should definitely think about getting involved. And then I also make sure that when I do have these coffee meetings, I set aside a day in the week where I know I'm not too busy and I stagnate my calls. So let's say I want to meet somebody and I'll meet at one Starbucks. I'll have everybody meet me at that same Starbucks in stagnant increment times. So I'm not moving around, driving around to all these different meetings. So I may have somebody at 9 o'clock, then my next meeting might be at 9:45. And sometimes there's some, interlap. They see me having a meeting and then they see someone else coming and they're like, oh, and then I introduce the two of them in crossing and passing. So
I
being
love
in one place that has helped me because at one point in time I was driving to this side of town and that side of town. And if you know anything about Atlanta, our traffic is horrible. We have surpassed Los Angeles with traffic. So I've made it my business to find designated areas where if I know I'm having a meeting in a certain area, I'll pick one location and have everybody meet me there at different times so that I'm not moving around. And then when I have downtime, I'm able to respond to emails, I'm able to do other things, and I'm not moving around all day. So those are some of the things I do. And then also I use a customer relationship manager software. So with that, I make sure that I'm tagging people to know like who they are, where I met them. Because there's people from 5 years ago, I can call them and be like, hey, I met you at, 123 Main Street networking event. And they're probably like, I don't remember you, but I take really detailed notes in my CRM of when I meet someone. So then when I need to go back to that, I can go back to a tag when I'm looking for someone and be able to make those cross relationships. So I know that was a lot I just said, but I hope that it's very helpful. And I'm going to make sure I get on these calls and just drop my little tidbits as I can.
Dan, Fazil, and Zach. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think the one of the key characteristics of successful salespeople is passion. And you, Donna, have a lot of passion for what you do, and it's not easily found. You've got a lot of energy. I can tell you spend a lot of time at Starbucks because that coffee's going for you.
Yep, that's me. That's just, I
But that's
really,
good
really
stuff.
do.
That is good stuff. You exude a lot of passion, and when you're that happy about what you do, and you're that into it, and you're that motivated, it just attracts people. It brings people into your circle. So I would just say those are really great qualities that you have.
Thank
That, that's a
Yeah,
great way
and
to.
I think the whole thing of you have only a certain amount of time to do face to face, right? And that idea, like I haven't, what I'll do very often, because I'm doing slightly different from what you're doing. If I'm going into a specific city, like you said, you'll go and you'll meet people at a Starbucks. If I know I'm going into a specific city for something, what I'll do is I'll reach out to everybody I know from LinkedIn from that city, and I'll just say, "Do you want to have coffee?"
you.
And what'll happen will be anywhere from 5 to 10% will reply. And then I'll say, I'm going to be at this coffee shop. and I'll set time slots up. And sometimes like I'll be in Tel Aviv and I'll do 12 coffee meetings at the same coffee shop all day long, or I'll do it in Dubai, or I'll do it in Dusseldorf. And really 90% of them don't pan out into any immediate business, but 10% of them turn into something. And you know that it's a great way to, you know, you can't drive around Atlanta and meet, you know, people. I was talking to a guy years ago and he said, you know, I can do 4 meetings a day in Sao Paulo. And I was like, no, you can't. Nobody can do 4 meetings a day in Sao Paulo. The traffic's too bad, right? You have to know what you can do and what you can't do in terms of the physical limitations. So yeah, everything you're doing is great. You know, that's a lot of that stuff I was doing when I was a little bit younger, and I was doing a lot more of that running around, you know.
Yeah. But Bazil, lot to digest here. What do you want to
No,
talk
it's all good. It's all good.
about? By the way, it's a lot more than the caffeine that powers Donna, right? I mean, there are people who drink a lot of coffee and there's nothing there, right? Donna, you know, there's something there, and so keep up the great work. It is
It's the
inspirational.
matcha. The matcha at Starbucks.
Oh, there you go. Bazil, it does take more than caffeine and matcha, doesn't it?
Well, it depends. I answer like a good lawyer. Yeah, yeah, we are networking at you here. Our flagship course is called Networking for Profit. So basically, we teach people how to network so they can achieve profit. One of the breakthroughs that we made is we hear a lot about sales, but what comes before that? Doug, can I show a chart that I have here? Is this possible?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is one of the chart that we put together. We came up with. We talk a lot about sales, but there are steps that comes before sales, and they were mentioned here on one way or another. Networking comes number one, and then you have promotion, and then you have sales. Somebody talk about mapping the process. This is the process that we discovered. One of our biggest breakthrough is to understand that these are three different subjects, distinct. Sales is about collecting the money. Promotion is about creating a strong desire for your product. Networking is about creating acceptance. Okay? Just like it came from, trying to move the slide here, it came from what we discovered in terms of, we ask ourselves, what is the thing that most people do? Most people drive a car. How do you drive a car? Ignition key number one, gear shifting number two, pedal to the metal. In that order, all the times, every time. If one violates this sequence, the car will not move. Our research then in the last 20 years was to come up with the 1, 2, 3 to get client. And that's how we came up with this. And we have the know-how on each and every aspect. It's great because it helps solve all these issues. I mean, somebody can be new, experienced, and whatever. They all benefit from this program that we have. So again, we talk a lot about sales, absolutely, because that's where the money is. But before you get to the sales, these are the steps that comes before. So that's why we say networking for profit, because now everything in mind, you can then roll through easily and get on the other hand. So that's what I wanted just to share briefly here.
Thank you. We've got 5 minutes left, and I want to give the opportunity for anyone who hasn't spoken to speak. And I think, Nikhil, you had your hand up at one point. Did you want to share anything? How are you? Good to see you twice in one day. Thanks for joining the India call.
No, thank you so much. Real pleasure and a wonderful meeting everyone here. I just connected out of curiosity because I've never, been a part of the sales roundtable. And thank you once again, Mr. Duck. So essentially speaking, I think just to give you a brief background, Envision Advisory, I am out and out and hardcore salesman in the sense, on the field sales, being on the ground in places like Mumbai to Ahmedabad to even Europe, selling to people door to door, solutions from Standard Chartered Bank to uh, market research solutions to consulting solutions. And so a mix of hybrid, a mix of physical, a mix of online. And the only way in which it works for me is my clients ask me at the end of the day, what do you have in terms of numbers? What do you have in terms of sales? Forget about all about the theory, all about the talk, all about the whatever you say. But they ask me this, and quarter to quarter, I'm dealing with sales results. That's it. My discussion with them. And one thing which I've learned, which is why I thought I should raise my hand, is Mr. Duck. An actual sale begins when the customer says no. I mean, that's when you have the opportunity to truly understand, adopt, and provide value that would probably change their mind. And again, when I say that when the customer says no, obviously I'm referring to the fact that you're basically, I mean, all of us are basically serving. We are not selling. Our job is to solve the problem, not push the product. And of course, I agree to what the previous talker said that I mean, my rule is a bit more on the heavy end. I mean, listen 70%, talk 30 percentage, because absolutely, as far as I go, I learn nothing while talking. Discovery is everything for me. So listening is very important, and I like to try and be there to help the clients, because at the end of the day, they're paying money for that. So I think the last thing which I would like to say is people buy from people that trust or like or believe, and basically who understand them, because we are genuinely trying to build a rapport authentically with them rather than just talking about the solution. So price is only an issue in the absence of a value. So my primary task to them is to build and communicate the value clearly. And of course, I'm trying to qualify ruthlessly with them, because I understand that not everyone is my customer. I try not to spend time on poor fit prospects, because then I'm stealing the time away from my good ones. So maybe I try and see if I could budget, if I could use four tools named budget or authority or need or timeline, or if I could use six tools, basically, which I name as metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, identity, pain, and champion, which I call medic. And of course, the earlier one as band. So basically, I'm trying to uncover the real pain. Where exactly is the surface level need coming from? I'm trying to ask them why repeatedly to find out the root problem. And I'm trying to present this to the decision maker rather than selling to a non-decider, which is absolutely a lot of times futile for me. So these are certain things which I have learned, but of course there's a lot more, and I appreciate the time, the last 5 minutes which you have given me, Mr. Duck. Maybe on the next sales roundtable, I would like to chip in. Thank you all.
Thank you. We are out of time, so I'll just go around the room for the folks, Dan and Zach and maybe a couple others. 30 seconds. Dan, first on sales acceleration, is there an office in India for Nikhil and others in India who might want to have a resource? How would they get it from sales acceleration?
We don't have an office in India. Our advisors are located primarily in the U.S., the U.K., Australia, and Canada.
Okay.
However, via Zoom and via phone, we're certainly able to help. A lot of our engagements are remote. And so I'm happy to connect you with the right person that might have industry experience so that you're looking to speak with, and just offer some advice. For myself, I also offer people a free 90-minute discussion and a sales agility assessment. I've got a great online tool that I can send people a link, business owners. They'll answer a series of questions, and then we set up a call. And I kind of lay out, here are some of the gaps in your sales process, and just have a conversation. Free, no obligation, just to give them some ideas on things they can do differently to improve their selling process. Happy to do that for anybody.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Zach, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I actually, if we're talking about India, I just started to work with a partner in India, a lady who does sales training, and we're setting up a series of in-person workshops in India in 2026. So if you're dealing with India and you want to work on your sales force, Doug knows I ran a sales organization in India for 3 years. I sold all over India and lived in India. So I have a relatively good understanding of how Indian sales operations work. So yeah, if anybody is interested in learning about what I do, reach out. You can easily find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. And you can find me through my website, Global Sales Mentor.
Amazing. Very good. Thank you. We haven't heard from Divya. Divya is a new member of Global Chamber, and she runs an HR services company based in India. And she's actually headed to Poland, and she's headed to multiple countries. We were trying to get her into Greece, and the visa people were not receptive enough. But that'll break at one point. Divya, is there anything you'd like to add to the conversation today before we close the room?
Yes, good morning and good evening, everyone. I am Divya, and I am the Director of Human Resources Global Gateway Private Limited, WOZU. This is part of Tamil Nadu. And we are MEA licensed international recruitment and mobility company based in India. We specialized in skilled and unskilled manpower recruitment for Europe and other countries also. We are doing work permit processing, support all the EU and other countries, B2B agency partnerships, corporate staffing solutions for factories, logistics, hospitality, and manufacturing sectors. Our company currently works with multiple European employers and mobility partners, supporting long-term recruitment and visa documentation for Indian workers. I was pleased to see you in the recent meeting and wanted to connect with you personally. I believe there may be potential areas where our companies can collaborate, especially regarding manpower sourcing, business expansion, or future mobility programs. I kindly request you to share your LinkedIn or email or preferred contact so we can connect professionally and explore possible cooperation. Looking forward to your positive response.
Fantastic. Thank you very much
Thank you so much
for
giving
sharing.
me this opportunity, Mr. Dutt. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you for sharing. I think that's it. Basile, one final word.
Good job. No, the information is very valuable. We can always learn from one another. That's what comes to this meeting. You pick up here, you pick up something here, or whatever. And I guess that's the name of the game. And we're all getting ready to do better in 2026. So I wish all of you happy holidays and a very great 2026.
Zach, thank you. What's next for you? You going to take some time off over the holidays, or you got anything left?
Well, I'm not doing any traveling for a bit, but I usually use this time to build up marketing equipment, do strategic planning. I'm going to do a series. I'm going to do more webinars and podcasts in the coming year. So I'm sort of working on sharpening that up.
Sounds good. Hey, Crum, thank you for joining. Are you in Sofia? Crum, or I think you're definitely in Bulgaria, and I wasn't sure which city, but I think probably Sofia, right?
The address he put up is Sophia.
Yeah, so very good. Thank you for joining, and great products. Go to the Vimo 99 website, and it's some fascinating things. He's the one that just got great knowledge of his markets. Thank you all. Thank you. Keep asking good questions. The John Maxwell book. Good leaders ask great questions. Good salespeople ask great questions too. So keep asking questions. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thanks,
Thank you,
Doug.
Kirk.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks all. Thank you. Thank you.